Hello and welcome back. Continuing on from where we left off. So we have this create hash digest method, verify hash digest method, create secure users method, and now we need a way to authenticate user. Because remember, we are anticipating that the users are going to have a username and then we're going to get a password to authenticate. And we already know how to create a hash password. So now we need to authenticate a hash password. So let's do that. We're going to define our authenticate user method, and it's going to take in username so I can compare the user based on first their username matching and then their associated password. So authenticate user, username, obviously the password will need to be passed in, and then whatever it is that I want to compare based on. So right now we're working with an array, and so for our method we're going to say list of users. Our assumption is this is going to be passed in to our method. So we have our list of users. Let's loop through it. List of users dot each do user record. Let's first compare that one of the usernames matches the username that's passed in. So if user record username equals username that's passed in, okay, then we have to match the password that's passed in associated with that username. So, and my method is verify hash digest, right? So verify hash digest, and then user record password, which is the same methodology we used before, and we have to compare this to the password that's passed in, the string. So if this is the case, then we want to return user record, okay, which is the element that we were working in, or the row of the array, or the record of the array we were working in. If that is not the case, let me just end my if statement right here. So if it's found, it will return user record and that will exit out of the method. If it's not found, that means I've looped through all of my users or iterated through all my users and couldn't find it. So this failed. I've gone through my entire list of users array. So at the end of it, I'm simply going to say credentials were not correct, meaning either username, password, or whatever combo was not correct. So let's test this out. Let's run authenticate user with Heisenberg and password 5, which is the last record. Let's see if it works. Okay, so I'm going to say authenticate user, username is Heisenberg, password was password 5, I believe. Let me verify. Heisenberg and then password 5, yep. And of course, the array is my users array. So I'm going to send that in. Okay, so if I print this out, this should return my user from here. Okay, the user object. And if it couldn't find it, it would say credentials were not correct. So let's run this. Hopefully it works. Ruby crud.rb. First, it will print out all of my users. So I don't really, actually, I can't run this right now because if I send in my users array doesn't have the hashed version. I'm creating this, create secure users. Let's do this. Let's do new users equals create secure users. Okay, and then puts new users. So this will have the password as the hash digest instead of simply the string version. I was passing in the string version, which would not work because my verify hash digest is working with a hash password. All right, so here I have to call this with new users. Okay, so first it will take this users, it will create this new users array with the hashed passwords, and then I will use or test my authenticate user method on that hashed one with these two, and it should work. So let's run it now. I'm going to expand this. Let me clear this up. It should, okay. Ruby crud.rb. Okay, so there it printed it out, and then check it out. The last one printed it twice, which means that my user authenticated. Okay, I got the user object back. So first it printed out this print right here, new users array, and then I did the comparison and it worked. Now if I enter in an incorrect password, password 6 for example, then I'm expecting it to say that its credentials were not correct. Let's run it again. I'm going to clear this up, and there you go. Didn't work because it was the incorrect password. Credentials were not correct. Perfect. So now that my methods are working and I have these 4 nice methods, how do I convert this into my toolkit? How do I convert this into a module that I can use whenever I want? Well, first of all, I'll leave this in here simply because this is my REPL screen. If you're working locally and you've done the gem install bcrypt, then you don't need this part. You'll still need this require bcrypt to require it in your script, but you won't require this part. I'm simply keeping this part so that it works in REPL, okay? So how you would do this is you'd convert this into a module. I'm gonna get rid of this from here. I'm just gonna keep my methods. I don't need this. And I don't need to print any of this. So all I want is a toolkit with my 4 methods. All right. So to convert this into a module, we're simply going to say module, I'm going to call it CRUD. Okay, remember C caps, okay? Then scroll down, and then I'm going to tab all of this over to the right. Command right square bracket. Okay, and there you go. There is my module with my 4 methods. Now, how do I use this? I have this in this file called crud.rb. What if I wanted to use this module? So let me go to one of my other files. Let's say main. Okay, and I'll get rid of all this. First, I need to require this file. And there are 2 ways you can do this. Since this file, crud.rb, is in the same directory as main.rb, I can do something like this. Require _ relative, and then the name of the file, which is crud.rb. But I don't need to do the .rb part, simply crud. Okay? The other option, you would do something like this. Require crud. But this wouldn't work if this was in the same directory. In that case, let's say you didn't want to do require relative crud, then you would have to add your current directory to what's called your load path. So what you can do is this, string load underscore path, and then add in this dot, which is the universal sign for your current directory. Okay? So you're adding your current directory to your load path, and then you're requiring CRUD. So this will work as well. But since we're gonna use this in the same directory, I'm simply gonna leave require relative CRUD. Okay? So let's take our array that we had and then use one of our methods from here, which is create secure users, and see if we can make that work. Okay, so our array, I'm gonna grab it. I have to remember where I had it. I think authenticator. Yep, there it is. There's my users array. So let's run it. Let's run our method. And our method is called create secure users, and it takes in a list of users. So I'm gonna say hashed users equals create secure users and then users. Okay, and for notification purposes, I'm going to add something to my CRUD module right here. After requiring bcrypt, I'm going to do this puts, and then I'll say module CRUD activated, just to check that my module got loaded correctly within this file when I run it. Let's see if this works. Okay, let's expand this. I'm now going to get rid of that. Okay, clear this up. Now this is ruby main dot ruby main dot rb. Okay, we have a problem. You see, create secure users. It couldn't find this method. Why couldn't it find it even though we said require relative CRUD? Why couldn't it find it? Let's try this. Our module name is called CRUD, right? Module CRUD. So over here, I'll say CRUD dot create secure users. Let's see if that works. Clear that up. It's saying undefined method create secure users for CRUD module. Interesting. But notice how one other thing that happened, which we didn't talk about last time, it's like right here. See, module CRUD activated. That means my module is being loaded, but it still can't find this method. So what's the other thing we can do here? In CRUD RB, what if I add CRUD next to this? Okay, what if I do this? Find CRUD dot create secure users and then run it. Aha, okay. Now module CRUD activated. I didn't get that same error. I got a different error this time. Now it's saying undefined method create hash digest for a CRUD module. Okay, so what it's trying to tell me right now, and something to keep in mind, it's different when you are working with mixins that we briefly talked about before. But for now, we can just do this. CRUD behind all of our methods. Now if we run it, let's go back to main RB. No errors. What? It worked. Module CRUD activated, no errors. Perfect. So let's print this out. Puts hashed users. There you go. Username, password. Check it out. Look at what just happened. we created a module. Okay, we created a module with 4 methods in it, which we're calling our toolkit. And in our program, we were able to use that module and methods from that module in our program. All we had to do was require it. Now, this is a really interesting thing that we have accomplished, because now we can create such toolkits and use them. Like, we just use this one to create a list of users. Now imagine the possibilities. We could save this in a file, then we could create an authentication system, and then people can use their username and password and try to log in. And then you can use this verify hash digest method from here to verify the password. You can add users by using this create hash digest and then save to a file. Now, what you use for the memory part is irrelevant here, right? Because you could use a SQL database, you could use Postgres database, you can use CSV file, whatever backend you may be working with, but you were able to create functionality which verifies this, okay? And you are able to create a module out of it, which is great. Now, the last thing I want to show you is, notice how we did this. We did crud dot and all of this. Now we can change this and get rid of them and associate using this module with a class. And we're going to do what's called a mixin in the class. And we're going to use our student class that we used before. And I'll show you how to do that in the next video. I really hope you're enjoying building this and learning about modules, classes, and all this fascinating functionality that exists that you can do with them. So let's continue on.